Today I'm going to be showing you how to make your very own Crochet Torah. You could use whichever colors you would like. You could make it bigger, smaller, using different yarn weights. So let's get started. You're going to need 1, 2, 3, or 4 different colors for this. As you can see on these Torahs, here I made all the decorations the same color, whereas on this one I made them slightly different colors. So depending on which you prefer, that's how many colors you're going to need, but at least 3 different colors for the feet and the tops, the middle part, and the decorations. I'm going to be using the same colors as this one, so I have them all ready right over here. The Torah is going to be worked from bottom up, so the first color we'll need is the color for the feet. For me, it's this light green color, and we'll start with this one. Get your crochet hook and stitch marker, and we're ready to start. We'll begin by making a magic circle. Cross over like this. Grab this side and bring it under. Pull out the fingers and take 1 to secure it down. Now we have our magic circle, and we're going to make 8 stitches into the circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now we'll place the stitch marker in that last stitch and carefully close the circle. Now we're going to make 4 rows into these 8 stitches. No increasing, no decreasing, just 8 stitches all around for 4 rows. Three rows. And 4. Now that we got the 4 rows, I'm going to stick the tail inside so it shouldn't bother us. Now take a scissors and leaving a little bit of a longer tail, I'm going to cut. Pull this through. And here we have the first foot of the Torah. Now we're going to repeat this whole process, beginning with 8 stitches and making 4 rows, but we're not going to cut at the end because then we're going to connect them both. So I'll meet you back when I have the second one done. Here I've got the second foot done, and now we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to connect to the first foot by beginning to go into the stitches from around. So beginning with the first stitch right after that last stitch, and we're going to crochet these 8 stitches around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and in the last one I like to go into the previous kind of row stitch, not the one that we left off on, but the one under that, and that just makes it a bit more sturdy. So that's 8. Now we're going to crochet in the back of the 4 stitches that we made, that we chained. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now again these 8 stitches of the second leg. This one is the last stitch, so don't go into this one, beginning from the first stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now again into the 4 stitches that we chained. 1, 2, 3 and 4, and here we're going to place this stitch marker and this last stitch that we did. So now you should have 24 stitches all together, 8, 8, and 4 stitches on each side, so that's another 8, so 24 stitches all together. On the next round, we're going to make some increases. We're going to increase every 2 stitches, so 2 single crochet, 1 increase, 2 single crochet, 1 increase, and we're going to end up with 32 stitches around. Make sure that you're going into the right stitch here at the beginning. It could be a bit tricky to find it, but it's the one that's right after where we left off, right over here. 1, 2, and increase. So 2 single crochets in the same stitch. Again, 1, 2, and increase. 1, 2, and increase. And the last one, 1, 2, and increase. All right, now we have both legs connected and it's a bit wider to give that kind of nice shape. And now we're going to do one row of just 32 single crochets all around. At the end of this row, we're going to do a color change, but not just yet. So in that last stitch, we're not going to do the whole stitch. Just begin, pull through, and when you have the 2 loops, leave it aside for a minute. We'll get right back to it. Now what we're going to do is take this longish tail that we left on the first leg, and we're going to close those little holes that stayed when we connected the 2 legs. There's this little hole, one over here, one over there. So we're just going to close them real quick. Take a needle and find around where that hole is. I like to go on both sides of the hole and make a kind of knot. That usually closes it up pretty nicely. Sometimes you need another one. There we go. And now to come to the other side, I just kind of like thread my way through a few stitches on the way until I reach the other side. Make sure not to pull too tightly so it shouldn't scrunch up the project. Here I've reached the other side. Now let's close up this hole. Okay, that should do it. And now whatever tail you have left, you could just tuck it in. We're anyways going to stuff these soon, so that could be the beginning of the stuffing. Okay, now, now we're going to color change for our main color. So I'm using this dark blue. I think it goes great for a Torah because it looks similar to the real thing. Dark blue, dark brown, dark purple, dark red. I find that darker colors for the middle part makes it look so much more nicer. So we take this and we'll finish this stitch. Now we could cut the first yarn, this green one. We're going to need it soon. And I'm going to make a double knot by the 2 tails to secure it down. And this part is very simple and straightforward. We're going to make 17 rows of just crocheting around these 32 stitches again and again until we get 17 rows all together. This first row, I don't need the stitch marker because I could tell from where I switched my color. But from the second row on, you should use your stitch marker like this. You know exactly where you're holding. At the end of the 17th row, we're again going to make a color change, but first we're going to stuff it a bit. So on the last stitch, again, we begin this stitch, but don't finish it. And now we'll take some stuffing and take a kind of little-ish piece because we want to first stuff the feet. And let's go over there. Sometimes I use my scissors and I help it push it down, as long as it doesn't have spiky top, because then it could make a hole. So kind of push it down and make sure it's nice and stuffed. Now let's do the second one. Oh, they're nice and stuffed, so now we can just continue stuffing inside. We're going to be adding stuffing as we go now, but the main part of the stuffing we should do now so that we get that out of the way. I like to stuff it pretty firm, but still leaving it a nice soft feel, however you like. Just make sure you're getting in the sides around the feet, because sometimes that gets a bit ignored. So just push down there and there. Make sure everything is nice and stuffed. Let's put some more. Okay. We'll finish stuffing soon after we finish the first leg on top. So now we're going to change back to the color of the legs. Let me take the green and finish this stitch. Now we can cut the blue or the main color and again make 2 knots. And now we're going to make 2 rows with the green, just going around, not yet decreasing. Just 2 rows all around. Before we go on to the next row, I'm going to add a little bit more stuffing. Next row is going to be a decrease row. So what we increased over here to get 32, now we're going to decrease to get 24 stitches again. So every 2 stitches, a decrease. 1, and 2, and decrease. 1 and 2 and decrease. Next part is going to be a little bit tricky, and you just need to pay attention to what you're doing to make sure you're doing it correctly. We're going to be now making these 2 top legs. So now we're at the end of the round, and we want to make 8 stitches around to get the first bump over here. So what we're going to do is count 8 stitches back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here's our 8th stitch. Let me just get it hooked so I remember which one it is. And we're going to be working in the round on these 8 stitches. So I'm going to pick it up from this side. Let me get the yarn out of the way and not lose my stitch. Here, I'm going to pick it up from here. Make sure this one is not too long, like that. And I'm going to place the stitch marker on the last stitch as usual to not lose it. And I always like to count when I'm doing these stitches just to make sure that I picked up the right ones. And we're going to make 4 rows on these 8 stitches in the round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. After the first row, it's a little bit easier because now you already picked up all the stitches you need. So it's now just working in the round for another 3 rows to have 4 rows altogether. Got 4 rows done. Leave a little bit of a tail and cut. Pull the yarn through the last stitch. And now with a needle, we're going to close the top over here. So pick up all the 8 stitches. I like to go into the back loop, the front loop, to pick them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Carefully pull it closed and make a knot to secure, just going in there on the top. And now pulling this tail towards inside to hide it. There we go. Now we're going to stuff this one up. It's a little bit tricky to stuff it because we need to kind of go upwards, but it's possible. So I'll take a little bit of stuffing and just like kind of find a way to get it in like that. There we go. And make sure to add stuffing over here also so it shouldn't be floppy. Here. Okay. Now we're going to do the second one and leave the 4 stitches in between them. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So on the next stitch we're going to pick up and make another 8 stitches. This is going to be considered the first round, the one that we pick up the stitches with. It's not really picking up, it's basically just crocheting these 8 stitches, and we are going to leave a little bit of a longish tail at the beginning because afterwards we're going to sew these 2 sides closed for the middle. So leave a little bit. And now the way I pick over here is I pull the yarn through the stitch, make 1 slip stitch, chain 1 basically, tighten it, and then in the same place make a single crochet, and that's my first stitch. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Place the stitch marker, and this is now the first row. So we're going to make 3 more rows in the round. Here's our first stitch, so now we reach over to that one. Just tighten the loop a bit so it shouldn't be too loose. Over there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 2 rows. Now another 2 rows. 4. So we got these 4 rows, and we're going to close it the same way we closed this one. So and stuff. Now this is our last chance to stuff because then we're going to close it all up and we won't be able to stuff anymore. So make sure that it's as stuffed as you would like it to be. Now we're going to close up this gap like this. But first we're going to close up a little bit on here, because when we did that first round, since it wasn't yet in the round, so it made a little bit of a gap also here. So we'll close that as well. Let's take the needle and going through both sides here, picking up here and here, pulling through to pull it closed. I'm going to go through again on this side, a little bit lower over there, just to finish up this, the shaping of the leg on top. I'm going to do one more over here. There we go. And now these 4 stitches, so picking up from each side, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, and 4, 4, and one more over here just to close up that little gap. 1 or 2 more, however many it needs. I think that should be enough. I'm going to finish up with a knot and hide in the tail. So I'm just going to bring it to a random spot, and then I'm going to cut it a bit because it's very long. And again, because my scissors have a rounded top, so I could use it to push it inside to hide the tail. And that's it. The main part of our Torah is done. Honestly, it looks cute just this way also. If you want to leave it like this, feel free to do that. But I'm going to show you how to add the little decorations. So now I'm going to take yellow, which is my 3rd color, for these, the top and the bottom. So we're going to go into the row that's by the color change. I'm going to begin here at the beginning of the row, and we're just going to kind of go into the stitch of the row. I'll pull through the yarn and make 1 chain, pull it tight, and I'm going to make another chain 1. And basically what we're going to do is single crochets into this row, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, chain 1. So it makes this kind of like ruffled look. So we're going to go into the next stitch. We go in like this, make a single crochet, chain 1. Try to keep your tension even so that it should come out even. Otherwise, it kind of comes out a bit wonky if you make one stitch a bit looser, one stitch a bit tighter. So just try to keep the tension even as you can. Another single crochet, slip stitch, and chain 1, single crochet, chain 1, and we're just going to do this all around this row. Single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, chain 1, and we'll continue on all around until we reach again on this side. Now for the last stitch, we'll go into the same first stitch that we did just to close up the circle nice. Here we go. Cut a little bit of a tail, pull through to close. And now what I like to do is make a double knot between the 2 tails just to secure it down. And then hide these tails inside. You could do it with your crochet hook going into a random place. Pull it through. I could pull both through at the same spot. Doesn't really make a difference. And now hide both of them with my scissors. There we go. And the first one is done. We're going to repeat the exact same process for the other side. So I'll meet you back when that one's done. Okay, so I got both sides done, and I just want to point out two things. Number one, it's pretty obvious where the top and the bottom legs are. You could really tell the difference. These ones look a bit longer and a bit more curved in. These ones are a bit more spaced out. So just make sure when you're sewing the crown on to sew it on the right side and not when it's upside down. Also, in the back, you could tell where the back is because you could see a little bit of a crooked area where the beginning of the row was when we were crocheting the body of the Torah. So just make sure that you're making the crown on the right side. You could do the crown in the same color as this, just like I've done on this Torah. I made them all green. Or you could do it in a different color like I did over here. These ones in yellow and the crown in white. So it's all up to you. Now before I begin the crown, I do want to make a little disclaimer. It did take me a while to find out how to make a crown that looks good, that sews on well. I didn't want to make a crown that's inside of the main color, basically like doing like tapestry, because I do want it to pop out. I think it adds a little bit of texture. It adds a little bit of more three-dimensional kind of. So I do want it to be something sewed on, but it took me a long time until I figured something out, and I still feel that this one that I developed is not 100% perfect. So if you have any ideas how to make a better crown, or if you have a better pattern for it or something, I would really like to know, and I'm open to hear. But I'll show you anyway how I make mine, and you could try to follow that. We're going to start with chaining 7 stitches. So start with a loop, and we're going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we're turning around and beginning from the second stitch under the hook, we're going to crochet back 6 stitches. So this last one we're not doing. We're beginning from the second one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now chain 1, turn, and crochet back those 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This is for the base of the crown, and now we're going to begin making the 3 points of the crown. So chain 1, turn, and now we're going to do just 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Now chain 1, turn, and crochet back those 2 stitches. It's a little bit hard to see on this white that I'm using, but you should be able to find your stitches. 1 and 2, chain 1, turn, and now we're going to decrease both stitches in this way. You go into the first stitch, pull the yarn through, so you have 2 loops. Now we'll go into the second stitch, pull the yarn through, so you have 3 loops, and now pull the yarn through all 3 loops. So now we have just 1 stitch, chain 1, turn, crochet that 1 stitch. It's a little bit tricky, but if you do it slowly and paying attention, you should be able to get it. Chain 1, turn, and now we're going to do 4 stitches down the side. So just like kind of freehanding where to find 4 places to go in. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here we go. We got the first corner of the crown done. Now we're going to repeat the same process for the middle corner. So 2 crochet, 1, 2, chain 1, turn, 1, 2, chain 1, turn. It's basically 2 rows of 2 crochets and 2 rows of 1 crochet. So now decrease, 1, 2, pull through, chain 1, turn, 1 stitch, chain 1, turn, and again 4 down the side. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we got the second one done, and now for the third. 1, 2, chain 1, turn, 1, 2, chain 1, turn, decrease, in and out, chain 1, turn, 1 stitch, chain 1, turn, and now we're going to do 4 over here and then another 1 or 2 until we reach the first corner. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, here I got 5. There we go. So we reached the first corner and we have the crown done. As you can see, it's not perfect at all, but this is what I have at this moment. Now we're going to leave a pretty long tail to have plenty to sew it on. Cut, pull through the last loop, and try to find where is more or less the middle of the Torah. Try to position it as much as you can in the middle. Now we'll get the needle. And we're going to start sewing it on. Usually I go from the bottom, I go over here, and then work up on the curves and reach the beginning. I like to go in this side of the stitch, so basically picking up this space over here and go through and just continue like that, going in here and picking up a stitch from here. It's really kind of freehanding it, going around. I don't really have a specific pattern or method. Well, I kind of have a method this way that I'm doing it, but not each one comes out a little bit different because it's not exact, but that's okay. Now here, make sure that you make it a bit slanted because you don't want it to be straight up. You want it to be a little out, so we need to sew it on like that. Again, if you have a better crown design, please let me know. Or if you have other ideas, if you want to make letters on top, like do you have in a real Sefer Torah, or maybe a different picture that you could sew on, or you could even make a face on the Torah. I would love to hear your ideas. By the third spike, make sure that it's aligned on the same row as the first spike so that it shouldn't be like a little bit too low or too high. So just try to follow that row and make sure it reaches there like this. Like this, it should look even. You could tuck the first tail inside just to hide it away. Like this, you don't have to sew it in later. And we're almost finished. Over here. At the end, I like to make a knot. Oops. There we go. So now I just need to hide in this end. And that's it. Your Sefer Torah is ready. As you can see, each one comes out a bit different, but that makes it look handmade, so maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. Good luck on making your Sefer Torah. I really enjoyed making this tutorial for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.